So we are going to do some finishing touches on these roses, and I'm going to go ahead and do the center of the white rose. Now on my palette I have some dioxazine purple and a little bit of burnt umber, and I have a 2-inch Donna Dewberry liner brush. And I have taken some water, just dip my brush in the water, bring the brush over here and mix a little pile of runny paint here. Okay, and you know you have the right consistency when you can twirl your brush, pull it out, and you get a nice thin line. So here is our center right here. I want a little dome in there. Okay, now I can just pity pat this in with a liner brush. I just want some solid color in there, and then we're going to pull out some stamens. It would certainly be easier to do with the corner of a flat brush or an angle brush, but I'm just going to put it in like this for right now. And you can kind of rough up the edges so it's uneven. And while that is wet, go back into your paint, load your brush up again, and we are just going to pull out some strokes, some liner strokes. I'm at an angle here. Oops. It's kind of hard. You want your brush to be straight up and down. Let's pull in down to the center. And I'll put a little bit of a pollen type stroke. There we go. Now if you want some pollen on here, I can pick up just some little vintage white here. I'm just dipping my brush right straight in there. Dip in, dip out. Don't want these to be real thick. I want these to dry. Another thing you can use is your end of your stylus. And they have a little gadget called the Kiss tool. People use. I don't have one of those. So we're just going to do it this way. Okay. There's that one. Wonder what it looked like with just a little bit of this greenscape on here. Let's see. Yeah, that would. Isn't like right under maybe some of those. Yes, okay. Now your centers, they just kind of finish off your painting. Well, that might not work like that. You rethink that. I just want this a little bit thicker in here. Make sure you make it like a dome shape, okay? Give it a little bit of texture if you bounce it up and down. Okay, I think that looks all right. And then you can always add just some stamens over on these other roses here. I'll go ahead and add a few on these other roses, and then you can decide if that's what you want in your painting. Okay, so there's the centers. So another way that you can do some finishing touches on your roses is to come back and float some darker color under your petals, especially if your petals aren't showing up. So I have an angle brush, a small angle brush. I'm not for sure what size this is. Can't read it. So you would pick up an angle brush and then pick your color up. I'm going to show the example on this peach rose. And that was your pink melon. So what I would do is the tip of the brush, see how that's angled? Well, the tip of it, I would dip in my color. The other half of the brush I would dip in floating medium, and I would come back here and go back and forth, dip a little bit there, and just get a blend of, you have paint on one side, floating medium on the other. Then come up to your canvas here, and let me show you some areas that you might want to highlight. I can see this area here. Now it shows up okay. This one here, I could come back with a little bit of color, a little bit of float color. I'm just using a little pity pat stroke. And I could walk this out a little bit in color. I'm using the back corner now. Like I put in my color and then I can walk that color back out a little bit so that it blends a little nicer, so you don't have any hard edges on it. Now again, right here, might want to darken that up a little bit and blend out that back edge. I like to use my finger more so than the brush. Seems to want to soften it a little better that way. I'm just going to kind of wet the brush again right here. Just touch. Follow your float around. And then soften. Soften that back edge just a little bit. There you go, and that makes it stand out a little more. If I want this petal to stand out a little more, so I kind of like that, where it looks like it's an extra petal there, like it's divided a little bit. Any of these where you want to deepen the color in between here, you can add a little float to it. Say I want this a little deeper. Ooh, gotta keep my hand out of this. I've got centers here that are wet. Also, if you want to deepen some of this in here, right in the center, let me reload. I'm getting kind of dry here. Oops. That one went on. I reloaded my brush so it went on actually a little deeper than I wanted, so then you can just fan that out. So any area that has kind of gotten lost, where one petal meets another petal and you really can't tell the difference, then you can use this floating medium to make it show up a little bit more. You know, the general rule, light against dark, dark against light, in order to get that to show up. Deepens, especially in these pockets here, you know, where you have a petal that goes down. Those are deep recessed areas. I like to add color in that, and a lot of times I will add, like in these bottom sections here, right in the corners here, you want that a little deeper because of the shadow. See how deep that is? You can add some, I like to add a little bit of dioxine purple to those areas there because it really deepens that corner. But you can see how these different little areas here will come alive once you start doing your little pockets, especially in the center here. Of course, you want to make sure your centers are all dry here. Don't do what I'm doing. All right. And do that for each of your petals. Just take the darkest color that you were using for your rose and deepen those areas so that it makes those petals come forward. And then make sure you clean your brush when you're finished there. All right, so that's just another little finishing touch that you can do. And I'll be right back with another suggestion for you. Now, one of the last things I want to show you how to do is a glazing, which you can see some of it I've already done here on the foliage. I like to add a little bit of glazing to some of the long bladed grasses and ferns that I have here so that it's not all one color. And for that, again, I'm still using the angle brush, and I have some of the pink melon on it, floating medium also on the other half. You just want to make sure you're really gelled up with that floating medium so that it flows really nice with you. And I just take and I do the stroke again like this, and what it does is it puts a little glaze on the ones that I've done. I can do the stems, I can come back and do let's do one up here. Oops, can't see. Let's not do that one. Over here. There's one right here. Let's do this one right here. So you're going to touch it, and you're just going to add some of the pink. You're going to do the same stroke that you did to begin with. It's just, it's real fine. So when you pull out your paint, see how fine that is? That is just barely tinted. The color's barely tinted on there. And that's what you're doing. You're putting a tint of color right on top of what you already did. And that creates a little glaze on some of your petals. Now down here on the bottom here, I do have some on the bottom here. I know you can't see it. I can't hardly get this canvas into the frame. But I have quite a bit on this one here. You could even add it on some of these little buds here. So you can see little pink buds there. I could add a little bit on the pink buds up around here. You can't see that either. Sorry about that. So just go ahead and glaze some of those. Glaze what you want. If you don't like it, just keep a wet Q-tip at your side here. Dip it in water. Keep it at the side there. And if you don't like something, just take the Q-tip and wipe it off because it's wet. You know, I always keep a wet Q-tip at my station over here, and I can just take it and just wipe it right off. Let's say you go outside your line a little bit and you just want to, maybe you just don't like that one. You can take this Q-tip and just wipe it right off because you have all that floating medium underneath there. And you want to make sure you have a good amount of floating medium when you go to do this, or it's going to be too dark. And the floating medium allows you to take it and pull it off, or especially if it's too dark, you want it real light. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I want this whole painting to harmonize. I've got pink in my painting. I want pink out here too. And you could choose another color. Maybe you might want the peach color. So then you would take and you can do the peach color to bring that color out. And it's basically your choice of what color that you want to use to bring some glazing into the earlier foliage that you did. Okay, now the only thing I need to do on this is to put in, I think I'm going to put in a little bit of baby's breath. So I'll be right back. So let's add some baby's breath to this. I have some violet pansy or a light lavender. There's wisteria. There's all kinds of light lavenders you can use for your base. Then we'll come back over with some vintage white on the top. I want to make these real faint. I am using a mop brush, an oval mop brush. Make sure you use this dry. Don't put it in water until you're finished. So I dip into just a little bit of the lavender, and then I pounce it up and down like that. Get those bristles to spread out. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint some right here, and I'm just going to tap this like that. This is the underbase for the lavender. Remember, you want it airy. Once I have that, I'm just going to blend this and wipe it on a paper towel. Spread out my bristles again, and then dip into some of the vintage white. Tap it out. Oops, picked up a little green there. It's okay. Have to watch where you're tapping here. Tap it out. And then come right over the top of this before it dries. I'm not pushing very hard. Start out light when you go to push the color on. Otherwise, you could end up getting it too thick. Okay, now let's go over here. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little more for you. That's better. Now I'm going to do the same thing right here. I've already got some lavender on there, so I'll just pick up what I had on there. Go over here. Don't cover up what you like though. Maybe I want a little lavender going over that edge right there. Maybe trail it off a little bit over here. Okay, go into some of the white, or vintage white rather. Okay. Kind of picking and choosing where I'm putting this stroke, because the more layers you put on, the less you want to put on, because you want that bottom layer to show through. And if you put too much on it, that bottom layer is going to disappear. So that's the trick to this. All right, look on your painting and see where else you might want this. I think think I want some right down in here. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush on a paper towel, pounce it up and down just to get those bristles, see, to air out like that. Pick up a little more lavender, pounce it. Okay, it's nice and open. I'm going to come right down here. I want to start some right down here. Go into the white, vintage white, pounce it around, dress that brush open. Remember, I'm not pushing very hard here. Okay, let's block this down a little bit. There's that one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, the only other area I see is this right over here. I think I'd like to put a little bit right here. I like to do it in the indentions. This one I'm not going to put it up here at the top because if I do that I'm going to cover up my leaf, all of my leaf. But I'm just going to put a little bit peeking out here. I don't have to put a whole lot, like just peeking out right there. Now I could add some right here. Let me put a little bit right here. Like that lavender's come over this way some. Yeah, there we go. Right in between those roses. Yeah, I like that. Okay, set that down. Let me move this. And let's put a little bit right in here too. See, it's a little indention right here. Let's have some just peeking up right here. Don't have to put a real big piece of lavender in there. Oops. Just a little bitty one. Just a little spray it. There we go. See how that works? Now, the harder you press down, the bigger the stroke will be, the more paint will come off. And if you don't want very much paint, just barely press on that. Now to make a middle tone, I've used this for the dark, this for the light, and if I want a middle tone, just take your white, tap into that, and then come over here and tap into your lavender, and that will give you a mid-tone. Alright. Now I don't see any other place that I actually would like to have a little lavender. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like to have an odd number on a lot of the things that I put in. So we've got 5 different little lavenders in here, so I think that's enough. Okay, let's back up. There we go. That's a better view of it. Okay, that softened it down a lot. Added a little more interest other than roses and foliage. Added a little more color. Okay, here's the top. Here's the side. See, that goes all the way over. See how that glazing really works in there? Okay, now let's come down. Trying to fit this under my camera here. Okay, see all that glazing? Everything just sort of clicks and harmonizes together. There's that one over there. Right, let's see if I can lay this down. I could lay this down if I move some of these little bottles I have here. My space is just so small here, everybody. I need a huge room, huh? Okay. Cuts off the bottom there, but you can kind of see the top and everything there. Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope that you learned a lot. And make this painting your own little creative design. You don't have to follow everything, same colors and same rose placement. Some of you might have smaller canvases. I know a few of my students that don't have room for 1620s, but you could just do part of it. You could do these 2 roses and do some of your ferns out in here. You could do a nice little 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12. You don't have to do 1620s. It's just I had a lot to show you and I wanted to do it on a larger canvas so I could add everything into it. And then you go ahead and do your own little thing. Feel free to do any of these patterns, use any of these patterns that I showed you on here, royalty free. Have fun with it, and I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, you can Facebook me, private message me. If you feel you need some more help in this, you can get me on Facebook Messenger and we can set up a Zoom class for you, and it wouldn't take but about 30 minutes to go over whatever area that you might feel that you need a little more help in. I'd be glad to help you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, and be sure to push the like button. YouTube likes the like button pushed, and that helps build my YouTube channel up so that I can provide more of these videos for you so that you can learn more. Okay, so also subscribe. Tell your friends if they want to learn painting, send them my way on my YouTube channel, and that will help me a lot build my YouTube channel up. So I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much. Bye until next time.